Before I get into it, kindly subscribe to this channel and leave your comments about how you feel. My name is Kendrick Hall. I am 28 years old, and for the past 4 years, I have been running a tech company in Austin called Hall Dynamics. We build enterprise software that helps companies manage and untangle their data infrastructure. It's the kind of work that makes chief technology officers and operations teams very happy and makes everyone else's eyes glaze over at dinner parties. Somewhere along the way, what started as a small project with 2 engineers and a rented office turned into a company worth around $50 million. I'm not flashy, but I'm far from broke. I learned early that money changes the way people treat you in ways that have nothing to do with who you actually are. In my early 20s, I dated women who seemed genuinely interested at first, only for their behavior to shift when they realized what I earned. Conversations that started with music and movies ended with questions about stocks and investment accounts. It left me constantly wondering whether they were interested in me or my bank balance. That pattern made me cautious. I started keeping my financial life quiet. I drove a Toyota Camry instead of anything flashy. I wore understated clothes. No luxury watches or visible status symbols. I didn't lie if someone directly asked about my company, but I let people assume I was just another software guy with a decent salary. 14 months before everything exploded, I met Serena Blackwell at Radio Coffee on South Lamar. She had claimed a corner table, always spread out with textbooks and notes for her business degree at UT Austin. After weeks of accidental eye contact and half smiles, I finally asked if she wanted a coffee refill. When I went back to the counter, Serena looked up and I got the full effect of her presence. She was beautiful, with an easy, polished confidence that suggested she had been raised in rooms where people gave speeches instead of just listening to them. From day one, I could tell Serena had grown up around wealth. She wasn't cartoonishly snobby, but she evaluated the world through that lens. When she asked what I did, I told her I worked in software and left it at that. I didn't mention founding Hall Dynamics. I wore my simpler clothes and picked her up in my Camry, not the BMW tucked away in my garage. I wanted to see who she was when she thought I was just a practical middle-class software engineer. The night of our first date, I noticed her eyes flick to the Camry. It was subtle, but I had learned to read those details. Serena smiled and said, "Nice car," in a tone that sounded polite rather than sincerely impressed. Over the next few months, little comments revealed her mindset. When we talked about restaurants, she'd say things like, "There's this amazing place in Westlake, but it's probably pretty expensive," implying she didn't want to pressure me. If I suggested splitting an expensive dinner bill, she would smile with approval. "I love that you're so practical about money." Most guys try to impress me by spending way more than they can afford. Her family was deeply woven into Austin's old money social fabric. When I met them at their stone facade house in a tree-filled neighborhood, they were courteous but distant, like they had already decided I was temporary. Her uncle Reginald was particularly condescending. At a family barbecue, he looked at my shoes and said, "Software, huh? Competitive field. Hope you're saving money for when the market shifts." Then he clapped my shoulder and added, "Smart to keep your expectations realistic. No need to chase lifestyles that don't match your income bracket." With Serena, the dynamic settled into something subtle. She never called me poor, but built a narrative where she was the financially secure one dating someone practical and grounded. When she talked about her future, she would joke, "I guess I'll just have to find a rich husband to spoil me," then laugh and tap my arm like it was harmless. Serena's graduation from UT Austin became the center of her universe. Her parents planned an elaborate party at Westwood Country Club. A week before, she warned me, "It's going to be pretty fancy. My family goes all out for these things. I just don't want you to feel out of place." I didn't mention that I'd already been to Westwood several times for business events Hall Dynamics had sponsored. On the night of the party, I arrived in my usual khakis and button-down. Men moved through the room in custom-tailored suits. Women wore dresses designed to signal exactly how much they cost. As Serena introduced me, she always used the same phrase, "This is Kendrick. He works in software." Not "he runs a company" or "he owns a software firm." Around 10 o'clock, after drinking steadily all evening, Serena approached me near the bar with a determined look. "Kendrick," she said loudly enough that nearby conversations quieted. "We need to talk." The tone was wrong. You can hear it when someone is about to break something in public. "I've been thinking about us," she continued, her voice carrying through the room. "About our future, about what I want my life to look like." She paused, and in that pause, another pocket of conversation died down. More people turned to watch. "I just don't think this is working anymore. We're in different places financially. We have different goals, different expectations about lifestyle." Her declaration was not a private confession. She was making sure she was being heard. "I need to be with someone who can match my ambition," she said. "Someone who can provide the kind of life I want to build. You're a good man, but you're not in my league financially. You're not husband material for someone like me." A few people gasped softly. Others pretended not to listen while shifting closer. "Good luck affording dinner without my dad's help," she added with a little laugh, glancing at her cousins. That was when Reginald arrived, drawn to the drama. He put a hand on my shoulder with practiced sympathy. "Don't take it too hard, son," he said, wearing that patronizing smile. "Serena has standards to maintain. Family expectations, you understand. I'm sure you'll find someone more suitable to your situation. Maybe in a few years when you've gotten your career more established, you could try dating in this league again." Something in me clicked in that moment. Not rage, not even hurt exactly, but a sharp, clean understanding. These people had spent 14 months evaluating me, finding me lacking, and now they were celebrating my supposed inadequacy. I reached into my pocket, pulled out my phone, and stepped away from the group. I dialed a number I knew by heart. "Tyrone," I said when he picked up, "I need a pickup from Westwood Country Club." 30 minutes. Tyrone Lewis had been my friend since college and now worked as our company pilot. He didn't ask why I was calling. He just said, "Got you," and hung up. I looked at Serena, then at Reginald, then at the circle of relatives who had just watched my public dismissal like entertainment. "I appreciate the advice about knowing my league," I said calmly. "Thank you for making things so clear." Then I walked over to the bar and ordered a whiskey, focusing on the ice clinking in the glass while my heart settled back into a steady rhythm. 28 minutes later, a distant sound started to throb through the air. The sound of helicopter rotors grew unmistakably louder until it cut through the music and conversation entirely. People stopped talking mid-sentence. Heads turned toward the windows overlooking the field next to the country club. The helicopter came into view, sleek and modern, descending with controlled grace. The logo on the side was impossible to miss, Hall Dynamics printed in large letters on both sides of the aircraft. For a moment, the room was completely silent. Phones slipped out of pockets. People stepped closer to the windows, trying to piece together what they were seeing. I finished my whiskey, set the glass down on the bar, and placed a $20 bill beside it. Then I walked toward the exit without looking back. "Kendrick, wait!" Serena called, her heels clacking against the polished floor as she rushed after me. I kept walking. The helicopter's rotors grew louder as I stepped outside, the wind whipping my shirt. Tyrone leaned out from the pilot door, already wearing his headset. "You good?" he shouted over the noise. I nodded and climbed into the passenger seat. As we lifted off, I glanced back toward the country club. Through the wide windows, I could see a crowd gathered, faces pressed close to the glass. Serena burst out of the doors, her hair whipping in the downwash as she called my name. But there was nowhere for her to go. Then she was just another figure on the ground as the city lights swallowed the scene below us. The next morning, I learned from Tyrone that the party had dissolved into chaos after we left. Guests started Googling Hall Dynamics, finding articles about our funding rounds and my profile in the Austin Business Journal's 40 Under 40 list. Serena fell apart, trying to chase the helicopter in heels, then spent nearly an hour sobbing in the bathroom. Her mother was horrified as it dawned on her that their family had just publicly humiliated a multimillionaire. Reginald had been retelling the breakup with satisfaction until local business owners recognized my company name and word spread that he had mocked one of Austin's more successful young entrepreneurs. Someone had filmed the scene, capturing Serena's declaration, the helicopter's arrival, and me walking calmly away while she shouted my name. The clip hit social media that night. By the following afternoon, the #helicopterbreakup was trending locally. My phone lit up constantly that weekend. Serena called, texted, and left increasingly frantic voicemails. "Kendrick, we need to talk." "I didn't know." "You should have told me," she said in one message. Later, the tone shifted to desperate, "You can't just walk away over one mistake. I love you. We can still have the life we talked about. Please call me back." She kept repeating that she didn't know. Not knowing was her defense and her excuse. She didn't see that her ignorance was the point. Her behavior when she believed I had nothing revealed more about her character than any apology could. The money hadn't changed who I was. It had only changed how she saw me. Reginald tried his own version of damage control, calling under the pretense of wanting to clear the air and explore interesting business opportunities. The sudden shift from patronizing mentor to potential partner was almost comical. Serena launched a full-scale campaign to win me back. She showed up at my office building, waiting in the lobby until security had to escort her out. She raised her voice, accusing me of hiding my wealth and making her look foolish. "You lied by omission," she said. "You made me humiliate myself. How was I supposed to know you were actually successful? You drove a Toyota." That sentence told me everything. She wasn't devastated because she had hurt me. She was devastated because she felt embarrassed. In her mind, the real problem wasn't that she had publicly dismissed someone for being beneath her financially. The real problem was that she had done it to the wrong person. The most revealing moment came weeks later at a downtown restaurant. I was having dinner with a colleague when I noticed Serena at another table with a man clearly trying to impress her. When she spotted me, she excused herself and walked over with a familiarity that ignored everything that had happened. "That guy is a complete loser," she said quietly. "All he talks about is money and status. I miss being with someone real, someone who has actual substance." I stared at her, letting the words sink in. "Someone real?" I asked softly. "You broke up with me in front of your entire family because you thought I didn't have enough money." Serena shook her head quickly. "I was drunk. I was stressed about graduation, about my parents, about everything. You know that's not who I really am." The problem was that Serena still didn't understand. The story wasn't about the helicopter or the video or the gossip. It was about what she chose to do when she believed I had nothing to offer her but myself. Time moved forward. Hall Dynamics continued to grow, eventually going public at a valuation of just over $200 million. I made Forbes 30 Under 30 list for enterprise software innovation. I met someone new. Her name was Nicole Harper, an attorney who had built her own practice from scratch. She was sharp, direct, and had a sense of humor that cut through pretense. When she learned I was the founder of Hall Dynamics, she nodded once and asked what kind of cases kept her own firm up at night. When I eventually told Nicole the full story about Serena, the party, and the helicopter, she listened without interrupting. Then she said, "Thank God you found out who she was before you married her." There was no drama in her voice, just calm certainty. Nicole didn't need my money or want to be carried by it. She wanted to build a life alongside someone, not climb into one that was pre-assembled. We spent more time laughing about small things than discussing investments. The fallout from the helicopter breakup never fully disappeared. Serena's reputation suffered. Wealthy men avoided her because they had watched the clip. Her name became a cautionary tale whispered at parties when people talked about judging too quickly. Professionally, she struggled. Employers who Googled her name inevitably stumbled across the articles and videos. In a city where reputation mattered, doors that would once have opened automatically for someone with her last name began to stay closed. Months later, I spoke at Austin Startup Week about building sustainable company culture and leading with integrity. I talked about humility and building something that still felt like yours even after it scaled. I didn't mention Serena directly, but I did talk about the importance of paying attention to how people treat you when they believe you have nothing they need. When I stepped off stage, I spotted Serena in the crowd near the back. Our eyes met briefly before security gently redirected her. I left with Nicole by my side, the cool evening air filling my lungs. I realized I was grateful for all of it, the condescending comments, the public breakup, the stunned faces behind the country club windows. Those moments had stripped away delusion and shown me exactly who Serena and her family were when they believed I had nothing to offer them but myself. The helicopter hadn't proven that I was worthy of their circle. It had revealed that their circle had never been worthy of mine. I had built something real. Not just a company, but a sense of who I wanted to be and who I wanted beside me. Money had changed how they treated me. But it hadn't changed the truth I walked away with that night. I didn't need to be in their league. I had my own. Thank you for following me on this journey. Don't forget to subscribe and leave your comments below.